the precept of attending Mass on Sunday, you've been dispensed from the obligation, at least you can't fulfill it, and therefore it's not held against you. But I do think it is important to remember that the commandment of keeping holy the Lord's Day and of offering God worship, which in a real sense is our kind of prime objective, that always remains, even when we aren't able to gather as a community. And it's especially poignant and powerful during these holiest days of the year, which we're about to enter into, Holy Week and the Triduum. It's Friday the 3rd of April. Welcome back to Closing the Social Distance with Father Henry and Father Clement. We are sorry that we missed you yesterday. We had some technical difficulties, but the show must go on, and now it does. So we're celebrating with a nice glass of chocolate milk, the beverage of champions, indeed. And we raise a toast to you all as well. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do think chocolate milk is best enjoyed in a wine glass. I think it brings out the floral notes to appreciate the cow vintage,
This is not an infallible opinion.
It is, though, a pretty certain opinion, even if it's not infallible. Anyway, in addition to the good news of being back on the air and being able to reach out to our people, we did receive some tough, if expected, news today, or yesterday, which is that the bishops of Ohio, after consulting with the governor, have decided to continue the suspension of public masses and liturgies through at least the 3rd of May. So we saw that. It wasn't a terrible surprise insofar as we knew that we were going to be in this for a while, but still, it's sobering to see that yet again.
To finish the month out, April being the whole month without public masses.
Yeah. No, it's a terrible thing. Both of us have been dealing with weddings, with baptisms, with all sorts of big moments in people's lives, and they're all being upended and changed by this whole circumstance. So it's rough. It's rough. There's no way around that. All the chocolate milk in the world can't fix that.
Yeah. But I do think it is important, it may be a technicality, but I think it's important to say that masses aren't canceled. As one of the things that we've been emphasizing so much on this channel is that we continue to offer the sacrifice of the Mass, and we bring you there with us. This is not the same thing as being like a Protestant who rejects the Mass and its power, or the same thing as, simply choosing not to go. This is a presence by desire.
It's true. And it's important that people know that the precept of attending Mass on Sunday, you've been dispensed from the obligation, at least you can't fulfill it, and therefore it's not held against you. But I do think it is important to remember that the commandment of keeping holy the Lord's Day and of offering God worship, which in a real sense is our kind of prime objective, that always remains, even when we aren't able to gather as a community. And it's especially poignant and powerful during these holiest days of the year, which we're about to enter into, Holy Week and the Triduum.
And we've had a lot of people ask us about streaming our masses.
Yeah.
Because so many other parishes are doing that. And, at the time that this crisis started, we had not wired the church to be able to do that. We had not done the settings. It's now more feasible, but it'd be difficult for us to do this in a way that's very well. And so while
we also have a perfectionist as our principal tech guy.
Yes.
Which is true enough.
And so, at the time that this began, we had choices to make. And a lot of parishes made choices to do radical things to be able to live stream masses. Our brothers in Columbus at St. Patrick's, they've set up things to be able to stream. Our brothers in Providence at St. Pius V. There's, even our brothers at the most beautiful church in the United States, at St. Vincent Ferrer in New York, have done a lot of work to be able to stream. And we chose to put our efforts into this, among other projects, to be able to to kind of add something beyond just the celebration of the liturgy, given that we knew that so many other live stream masses would take place and that you would be there with us in the church intentionally, and we would be praying with you there. And there are places that can do this very well. So our emphasis has been on being able to reach out to you in ways that are unique and special. And we've been thinking about how it's possible for us to do something more during Holy Week, but I don't think we're ready to make any promises about that.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I really do think we're trying to play to our strengths in a certain sense. We've been able to set this studio up. We've been able to, thanks to your tech wizardry, produce a lot of video content with very quick turnaround. And I think that we're also still offering the Mass on audio every day of the week on Sacred Heart Radio at noon every day during the weekdays. And then on the weekend, we record the Mass ourselves using a different setup. That way people can listen to it online. You get it on your email. And so that's something that I think is a good way of joining in the liturgy. But really, I mean, if we're going to get to the heart of it, going to the liturgy, going to Mass isn't just about seeing it. It is about the spirit of prayer that's cultivated, the union with Christ. And I mean, in the end, if I were in the situation where I couldn't go to Mass like most people are in, I'm not sure I would necessarily just focus on watching the Mass. I would focus on praying with the scriptures, praying the prayers, offering other devotions, and being in union with that sacrifice.
I was just speaking with our director of evangelization earlier yesterday.
Yeah.
And he has chosen not to watch any live stream masses, but to redouble his commitment to the Liturgy of the Hours.
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier with a parishioner who has set up a kind of iconostasis in a corner of their room, and they read the readings there themselves. And these are all, I think these are as legitimate an approach as being there listening to the audio of
Absolutely.
Mass.
And I mean, in truth, the Liturgy of the Hours, also known as the Divine Office or the Breviary, it's what priests and religious are bound to say, what we Dominicans chant in choir here in our chapel. But it's a beautiful prayer, and it is liturgical. Even if you're alone, you're still praying a liturgical prayer in union with the church, and it's spreading the Mass through the day. If you look up the Liturgy of the Hours, there's all sorts of resources online to learn how to say it, and free digital editions that you're able to access. But I mean, even if that's kind of too big a step, Magnificat, which is making itself available for free online during this whole crisis, they offer a kind of adapted, a simplified version of morning and evening prayer, in addition to the readings for Mass. And truthfully, that's probably one of the best places to start, just be grounded in that and have that just kind of set a rhythm. It's a great way of praying and of sanctifying the day.
And for those of us who do the full liturgy, the only two offices that we don't do are two of the daytime offices. We only do one of the three. You notice the way that all of those hours are connected to the Mass.
Yeah.
There was an early, you might be able to tell me the source for this, but there was an early command to pray the Our Father 3 times a day. I think is it Didache?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's in the Didache. The decision was that you pray the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, 3 times a day. And so one of those is at morning prayer, and one of those is at the Mass, and one of those is at evening prayer. And during the seasons like this, we pray that same collect that we open Mass with. We close all of the hours with that. So there's this dynamic unity. It's a part of the whole day.
And the 3 Our Fathers throughout the day is a great thing that people can do no matter where they are.
Yeah.
Kind of like the psalm that says 7 times a day I praise you, O Lord. It's a beautiful thought that we're turning our minds to the Lord throughout the day, recollecting Him, and really letting Him sanctify our time and sanctify the world around us. So, in a special way, of course, since we're entering these high holy days, and we're doing it in a weird way, given the pandemic and the lockdown, we're going to be offering some particular resources over the coming days in your email about how to pray these special solemnities, these special moments in the church's year with your family and at home. And I think it's really important that we not just let these days blend in, that they stand out.
And not all of these resources come from priests who only have theoretical knowledge of what praying in a family is like. Some of these come, from people with their own families and with experience leading family prayer.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really a kind of the cornerstone of how we're to approach this coming week. We aren't able to gather all together. We feel that separation, that exile, and yet the Lord is going to win his victory over sin and death. He already did. It's just being played out and applied in each age, in each soul, in each part of the world. And we might feel like Lent will just keep dragging on, but in a real sense it doesn't, because even in the midst of this terrible trial, we're going to receive that ultimate reminder. The victory's already won, people. It's already done. He already won the victory, Jesus did, over sin and death. And it's that victory that we put our hope in and that we take our refuge.
And I think, in a sense, what it is that we're experiencing kind of conforms to what Holy Week is. Holy Week is a waiting for the resurrection. One of the reasons why the Easter Vigil is so long is that it's meant to be that way, that it's meant to be an experience of waiting for the Lord to come. And even if we aren't able to celebrate that liturgically together, that it enters into what our whole experience is going to be, or what your whole experience is going to be, the waiting for the return of the Lord or your return to the celebration of the Lord's Supper when this crisis ends, when it becomes safe to do so.
It's true. A lot of commentators said that this whole suspension of public masses, it's kind of like an extended Good Friday or Holy Saturday, where the church doesn't celebrate the public liturgy of the Mass itself. There's a service on Good Friday, there's the vigil, but that's at the end of the day on Saturday. It's really, in a certain sense, looking towards that midnight.
It's meant to be in the night.
Yeah. So, we're experiencing a long Holy Week spiritually. And that's why it's all the more important that as we're going through the actual days themselves, to read those readings, to pray those prayers, and to let it stand out, even as the days blend together all too easily. Do you ever notice that I finish my chocolate milk much faster than you do? You know what? Let's not even comment on that, people. But we'll look forward to talking to you next time on Closing the Social Distance. As we've been saying, we're praying for you. We hope you keep praying for us. Know that we will miss having you with us during the week ahead, but you will be with us in spirit, in prayer, and certainly in our hearts too. Stay well, and we'll talk to you soon.